Welcome to the final chapter. That's it. The Chicago Bulls Fake Dynasty, episode 6 of 6. This is it. The last dance. The death and end of the Chicago Bulls. Their sixth and last fake championship, and they haven't won anything since. So there's been no need to mention it. Now, let's get to the gist of things. Going into this season, there was a lot going on. Michael Jordan was caught in a web of controversy because as they won more championships and he hung out with all his friends, he became a little bit more back into the Michael Jordan life of how he had things going on. And as the kids were getting older, things were getting a little crazy around the house. Michael was hanging out a little bit more now, smoking stogies, gambling at late night spots, and he would come home the game would be over in a home game, somewhere around 10 or 11 o'clock. Michael wouldn't come home till like 4 or 5 in the morning. Then, the next day, he wants everybody up practicing in about 3-4 hours at his house. Michael Jordan was basically a ghost. So, Michael Jordan finds out because he's got the new cellular phone. Okay? He has this Motorola cell phone plan that's Juanita had it set up. Now, back then, you paid for minutes, and it was a little bit more different the way the financial prices were. So you had a lot of roaming calls, and everything was digital. Text messaging did not exist. So Michael had a pager, and then he had this cellular phone that was gifted to him by Juanita. It was a Motorola, it was smaller, could fit in your pocket for emergencies, and the only people that had that number was the family. Like his wife, his mom, and his brothers, his sisters. If they needed to get in contact with him, only they were to have that phone number. In 1997, this was presenting a little bit of a problem. Michael Jordan's cell phone, the number was going into a voice messaging system because Michael Jordan, at this time, his phone wasn't being reached. So the pages was going through, and he wasn't returning the pages. Now, the security that's around Michael, Juanita has the number to the security. So the security's not answering. So she sends out a message to Michael that she's going to call the authorities if she doesn't hear from him within 30 minutes. Because she's called all the contact, and she calls and leaves the message as to why she's calling. Michael calls her back 10 minutes later, and it seems like he's in there. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm playing cards." And she says, "You should come home tonight." And he was like, "Wow, what's going on?" She said, "We'll discuss it when you get here." They had just had a home game. I mean, no, I'm sorry, the season hasn't started yet. But they were getting ready. It's practice and the preseason. Everybody's warming up for the preseason. And this is like right before preseason started. So Michael Jordan comes there and she talks to Juanita. He talks to Juanita and she says, "This came in the mail. It's a letter saying you have a child and all of these things this woman is claiming to go public. She wants you to take care of your responsibility, saying that this is your child." Michael swore to God, he's like, "I don't know this. You know how this thing is. I don't even know this woman. I don't know who this is. This is anonymous. This can be for anything. You call me home for this?" She's like, "No, you should be home anyway. Get some rest." And this was more and more of what was going on. She's like, "You don't even care or ask what's happening with the children. You're just absent from our entire life." As Juanita and Michael are basically not even speaking to each other. They're not even really together anymore at this point. Now, they went to an event and a gala, and she's basically doing her part, but now they're more situational teammates than anything else. Michael's getting cussed out every night he goes home, so he doesn't like to go home. Here's where it gets juicy. Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause, because Phil is doing this interview with Chicagoland Television Network, and he's working, switching with an agent, working on a book about the Zen of life, and he's talking to these philosophers. He's going to the Chicago Art Museum, and they're going to talk about breaking down basketball philosophy with some of the greatest artists in the world. So Phil is doing all of this, where he ends up talking to the one of the producers of the show for Chicago Sports Television or whatever that was there to cover this event that went down. And Phil and this lady allegedly become very good friends, and her name was Bridget. Now, Bridget and Phil were like really close as far as the conversations, and she was a producer at Chicago, was that the Sports Channel? I think it was called at the time, Sports Channel. So she was like one of the producers there on the network. So that's the only title I know. So she would always get a bite from Phil. Like Phil Jackson stopped Phil Jackson, and he gave us 2 minutes when Phil don't normally give people any time. Phil was giving them time. Now Phil is going through it as the same thing as Michael. Meanwhile, the organization is in a flux because not only all of this is going on with Jordan, Scottie Pippen, who has said, "Hey, I'm not playing for y'all next season if y'all don't trade me. If y'all don't pay me my money, rather, I want to be traded." So they lobbied after they won the championship against Utah the first time to go ahead and lobby to get Scottie his money. They didn't give Scottie his money in the offseason because Reinsdorf didn't like the fact that Scottie was trying to hold them hostage or act like they had to give him the money, which they wasn't obligated to do. Scotty took a road where his agent told him, don't say anything. He was bashing the hell out of Jerry Krause right in front of his face, calling him fat, disgusting, pig, everything, because he was like, oh, that's going to get me traded. Yep, that's going to get me out of here. Yep, heard what I called him last week? I'm going to get out of here. And Scotty was like, and Jerry was just sitting there with just taking, and he's pissed, but he doesn't like Scotty. And he also definitely didn't like the fact that Phil Jackson is becoming more and more arrogant. When they asked him to do things for the Chicago Bulls, saying, hey, we want you to do the Chicago Bulls and the interviews coming up. We want you to, do it in the Chicago Bulls backdrop. He's, oh, no, 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 I'm not doing that. He's like, what? And so he blew the shoot off altogether because he didn't want to stand in front of the Chicago Bulls back set. He wanted a different back set. He's got this beard now. He has his stylist come to line his beard up perfectly because he wants to look like a professor. Because he's getting ready to do this sit down documentary where he's talking about art and all of these other different things. So they have noticed this change in Phil since the 96 championship, and they start to see it deteriorate even more and more. So by the time the season started, they've already made their decision that they're going with Tim Floyd from Iowa, who they were friends with, saying, okay, we're going to start anew next season. Tim's going to be the coach, and we're moving on from Phil. Because Reinsdorf said, him and Krause can't get along. And Phil was basically trying to edge him out. Phil was like, I need this guy gone. I need him out of here. So Phil Jackson wanted to take over because he's saying Krause is not listening to me. Like I want to have more input like Riley has. Riley has input over with the Knicks. He had input on personnel in Miami. He gets to do his own thing. I want to be that. He's the head coach and the general manager and president. He gets to make the decision on personnel and he gets to coach it. Why can't I have my say? I know the players that we need to make this thing keep going. But Phil wanted control. He wanted Jerry Krause out of there. And he wanted a power sharing structure with Jerry Krause, and that wasn't going to happen. And because of that, he said, well, I'll just leave after this here. So when they came out, he made it public. Like, he don't care if they win a championship or nothing. Phil, you are gone after this season. You will no longer be the coach of the Chicago Bulls. This is it. So they laid it all out as this would be the last thing Phil ever does for the organization. Now, Phil was content. Was like, okay, my time has come. That's that. Phil's marriage was on the rocks at the time. And him and his wife also wasn't speaking. She noticed the arrogance. She noticed the change in Phil as he started to go more Hollywood. His arrogance and bravado just got way out of control. He felt like he was the master of everything and everything had to go Phil's way or it wasn't going to work at all. So now it gets even crazier because you have this other person involved now. This other human being that's there that needs to be taken care of. It's called the team. And they're in disarray. Scotty now decides to have his surgery right before preseason and everything is getting ready to kick off. He's ready to go through his operation. Now the whole team is set back. Now, this is all before the season starts. Michael Jordan's deal with a cheating scandal where a woman is claiming that he's the father of a child. All of this has happened, and we haven't even jumped up preseason basketball yet. And it's just getting more interesting. So now they know Scottie Pippen's going to be out. Jordan's pissed. He's more livid than anybody. He's mad as hell because he's frustrated over what he's got to go through, and he knows what he's got to go through. There's no doubt about that. So now that he knows everything he has to go through, he's looking at the situation of what's finna happen and what's gonna become of everything that they've done. They had Robert Parrish retire from the NBA. He's retired. After he won that championship, he said, okay, that's it. I'm done with this. So they got the other Boston Celtic, Joe Klein, to join the team. Dickie Simpkins was out. They got Scott Burrell in. And Scott Burrell became Michael Jordan's whipping boy. As Mike would abuse him every chance he got. They did so many different things. Rusty LaRue kept getting signed by the team. You know, he was the Rudy of the of the Chicago Bulls. Jason Caffey was moved out. You know, him and Scotty couldn't really see eye to eye anyway. So Jason Caffey was moved to for Damon Vaughn and all these things. You know, that was later in the season. And that was critical because they missed Jason Caffey. That wind up to not be a good idea for a trade. So then they get Dickie Simpkins back in free agency that season. And it was a very different, very different season altogether. Um, People don't understand that when you look at the Chicago Bulls and you look at the rosters and you look at the teams, you started to notice a bit of a change that was happening in the organization. You started to notice people were a little bit more vocal and victory had defeated them. You know, Scottie Pippen was still getting $2 million and he's watching Michael Jordan getting 33, 34 million a year. Ron Harper was making 4.5 million. Tony Kukoc is making 4.5. Rodman's making 4.5. Lonely's making 3 million. Scotty's making 2. He's completely disgusted. So Scottie Pippen at this point is pretty much frustrated with not being paid properly what he felt he was owed. So now, with all of this being done, the Chicago Bulls ended up being a team that had to learn how to play without Scottie Pippen. And this was different for Michael because every time he's played with Scottie Pippen on the side, on the wing. So he knows and is used to Scottie being there. Now Tony Kukoc is going to be starting in Scottie Pippen's place. So the lineup that they use is different because they used to have Dennis and Tony Kukoc coming in for Dennis Rodman and Rodman in for Tony. That was the lineup that they used to have someone come in for Tony Kukoc. Now you're gonna have Tony and Dennis on the court at the same time. And Jordan didn't trust Tony Kukoc to get anything done. And he needed Tony to be locked in defensively more than offensively. It's like, Tony, I know you're going to be able to score, but I'm going to need you to be ready because they're going to attack you. Scotty's not here. They're going to try you defensively. They're going to think you're the weakest link on the court. Let's break that Tony Kukoc kid down. Well, let's break him down, and Michael's got to come help him. So they had to get Tony to buy in defensively as Dennis tried to cover for him a lot while doing his job defensively. Made for a big challenge. A lot of the games got out of hand because Dennis would either foul out or get in foul trouble, and they would have to go to a different lineup, and all this pressure was on Michael while he was going through it at home in the middle of a crazy feud that was going on with his wife, who's about to just say, I'm done and I'm leaving. The only thing that was keeping her afloat or not going anywhere was the fact that she had her children in school and definitely didn't want them finding out anything about what was happening. And the press found out it would just be a nightmare. So Michael's tired of this. He's sleeping in the guest room in the house. He's not sleeping in the bedroom with Juanita. And as of right now, he's cool with that. He goes back downstairs and he's training. He's getting ready for the games. And they're playing. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. A man comes there and they say, okay, who is this individual? Don't know him, but he looks familiar. No one really recognizes this guy, but he's coming to see Juanita. And she says, well, what do you have? And he says, nothing that's going to make you smile, or it might make you smile. Ernie Rizzo. Ernie Rizzo is a known private investigator for the Chicago Cubs and definitely for the wives of professional athletes. And he's definitely a legend here in the city. Was as one of the greatest Chicago detectives for basically celebrities, and he was very good at getting information and doing what he needed to do to get the information. Ernie Rizzo had the cops, he had everybody under control. And all the wives from the Blackhawks, from the Chicago Bulls, from the Bears, all of these wives would hire this man. And he will get the information to bring down a giant. And Ernie was hired by Juanita to get Michael. That's why all those years later, she got $168 million because of not Frank, but Ernie Rizzo. Rest in peace, Ernie. He died in 2006. One of the greats. Now, unbelievable, though. It's completely unbelievable. We were in such outstanding communication when it came to all the basketball that was being played on the court. Great communication with the players and everything that was going on with the unions, with great communications. Everybody had the best intentions of, okay, this thing's going to get worked out. Before December hit, everyone's talking strike. It's going to be a holdout. That's all everyone's saying is how things are going to be a holdout. It was the weirdest thing ever. It's like, are you serious right now? Are you literally going to sit in front of us and tell us how something is going to be a holdout when it's not even close to being a holdout at all? Like, you got all this time to get it done. They were very 10 toes down that next season is going to be a strike and a holdout if things aren't put together correctly. The NBA and the union cannot come to an agreement on the direction of the monies and how it's being split. The veterans are pissed off at the rookies and the 2-year players, and they felt like they built this league and this sport, and now all these guys are getting paid and we're getting nothing. So this led to a whole big nonsense of a season that went in this year, and it was completely and utterly different, you know. It was completely different than what anyone else could imagine. Now, the Bulls are 15-8. They lost to the Orlando Magic team that didn't have Shaq or Penny. Ron Cycli beat them. They lost to Ron Cycli. It was that bad. Horace Grant played. He played well. He put up his usual like 17 points. Got some great rebounds in that game. He hit some big shots. But Ron Cycli was one of the guys on the team, and Mark Price. And after that game, the Bulls was like 15-8. And people are like, oh, the Bulls are done. That's it. They didn't run out of steam. There's going to be a new champion this year. Well, the Bulls got 5. That's all that matters. They had a good run. But yeah, we're not looking the same anymore. Tony Kukoc can't play defense. It's all over. Then, controversy strikes again, as if they needed any more. But this was kept under wraps. While Ernie and Juanita are spinning their wheels, another investigation is going to get ready to kick off that the Chicago Bulls cleaned up right away. Ron Harper of the Chicago Bulls, they find out Ron Harper, who lived in Glenview, Illinois, stayed over there in Glenview, was right next to the Glenbrook South High School, 5 minutes away. And while he's right there, right by the high school, he has basically parties where high schoolers are partying and drinking at his house, allegedly, but not allegedly. And these girls are there. There's teenage girls. There are other people there, like friends of his. And he's got all these high school girls hanging out at his home that he just let come over and party. And he's right by the high school. I mean, literally right down the street from the high school. Now, one of the girls who loved around Harper, who went to the school, she's emotional. Like, I love him and I want him to be my boyfriend and all this. I've been in his house and I want to stay there. We're in love. And Ron claims, I have never done anything with this girl. She's just a fan that's overwhelmed of, that I'm an NBA basketball player. But the situation is, Ron, this woman shouldn't have been in your house. This kid shouldn't have been in your house, Ron. So this became the running scenario. This became the major problem of the team. This should have all been in the last dance. But you know why it wasn't in the last dance. And now we get to the Dennis Rodman problem. Everyone knows about Dennis. Dennis is that guy. Dennis is the wild cannon, the loose cannon of the team. Dennis Rodman is the one that the Chicago Bulls can't really depend on or what's going on with Dennis. Dennis is in the last year of his deal. Dennis is a superstar for the Chicago Bulls. But he knows he's not even was going to come back for this year. He's ready to just walk away from basketball altogether because he has endorsements, movie deals on the table. He just did a movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. He has another movie called Simon Says. He's getting ready to start filming. He's got like a 3-film deal in place, and he's ready to be a movie star. He's got a hit book, #1 bestseller. Dennis Rodman stock is rising up past any other Chicago Bull on the team. He was more popular than Michael Jordan. And at this time, during the season, this was a Michael Jordan who was breaking down. The stress was getting to Michael more and more. Michael was starting to age in 98. You could see the wear and tear on Jordan the most as he was growing tired. And this was just another one of those moments where you're saying to yourself, okay, this is where Michael Jordan's going to hit the wall. Throughout this season, Michael played every game. And the whole question is, will Michael Jordan retire? That they showed all throughout the documentary. And what you started to see was the Chicago Bulls struggling. And Michael is like, if we're going to go out, let's go out winning. And that's it. Let's just go out winning it. I don't want to hear any more talk about who needs to do what. Let's just go out and win the damn thing. One more time, and everything will fix itself out when we win. That was Michael's answer for all of it. If we go out and we win or play, everything will fix itself out. So Michael Jordan is having those games where he's Michael Jordan. But I'm seeing the stress get to him for the first time. He's not comfortable. He's not comfortable at all. He's agitated. I've seen him struggle to get his shot off. I've seen all of these things wear down Michael Jordan in this final season. David Stern is concerned because he's trying to give Michael this theatrical, as Dick Ebersol is like, this is it. This is the last stance for Michael Jordan. So if this is going to be Michael's last game, if this is going to be his exit, let's make it all count. Let's make a big story of it and what have you. So come to find out, the girl that was talking about suing Michael and all this money, Michael Jordan wasn't the father of this child. They got the woman to shut up. They sent a fixer to deal with it, and the woman disappeared. But Michael and Juanita still have problems. Now, Jordan is informed that Juanita is definitely looking into his activities. There's a woman that's been like at the clubs with Michael who was actually set up and was working and reporting to Ernie Rizzo. And by her being around Michael, and it was almost like entrapment, Rizzo would have these women who were busted by the police department for prostitution or selling themselves, and he would cut a deal with these women saying, hey, you're already facing charges for this and this. You got this court date coming up. I can make it go away. I'm a private investigator. I know that cop. How would you like to do this for me? And basically proposition her, saying you don't have to sleep with him. Just go out and hang out at the party. Get him to come here and stand here in this window or anything. If I can get pictures, if I can get photographs of this guy doing anything that he know he shouldn't be doing, or if you hear anything or see anything, let me know. The activities, let me know the people so I can work them. He got people on the inside. Rizzo had been doing this racket for years. If guys are dirty, he'll find it. He'll find phone records. He's a private investigator. It's very easy for him to get a phone record. So Rizzo has tracked Michael Jordan since 1992, all the way into now, 2002. So now it's 98. The investigation is still going on. But Michael's aware now that he's being watched by someone, that his wife has probably hired someone. So he hired a private detective to go pry into her life and make her life a living hell, Juanita. So Michael's agent said, that's not a good idea. Stop that, Michael. Don't do that. That can torpedo everything that we're working on. We're talking about another Warner Brothers movie with Bugs Bunny. We don't need this right now. So Warner Brothers in talk of another Space Jam. This is supposed to start in 99, 2000. Do another Space Jam. But Warner Brothers is having some problem with the animators or whatever, and they're not gonna distribute with the people who did the first Space Jam. They won't be doing it anymore, and there's some legal process garbage going in, blah blah blah. And Michael Jordan really didn't feel like doing another Space Jam again. He was really against making another movie. He just wanted to relax and spend the rest of his life playing golf. Did not feel like going through the process of making another movie. So Warner Brothers had a particular amount of time to get to do all these things, but that's beside the point. Let's get to the season, because that's what people want to know. What happened in the season? Well, you had a bunch of teams that were broken up. And when you start looking at teams that were broken up, you start saying to yourself, who are the team to beat? Who's the team that could contend? What's going to happen here? Well, the East was, I won't want to say weak because they were winning games. Like the Indiana Pacers had won like 58 games. The Miami Heat had won 55. The Hornets 50 games. The Atlanta Hawks won 50 games that season. These teams weren't, how should I put this? They weren't at the level that people assume they should be at this stage in their progression. They were very much into their adolescent stage. Truly at this point. Now, as the whole world saw, you had all of these people who didn't know what they were talking about, involved in something they didn't know what they were talking about, talking about something they didn't know what they were talking about. So, all of that combined, you're left with a Chicago Bulls team who had to go up against a rundown Eastern Conference. There was nothing there that could contend with them. All the teams were in the West. The Supersonics, 60-win team. The Lakers was even into prominence now, winning 60 games. The Jazz had 62 wins. The Suns had 56. The Spurs, the Trailblazers, who was on their way up at that time. The Rockets had fell off to bliss. The Timberwolves was rising. All of these things were getting ready to change in the next couple of years, as you would see the Sacramento Kings rise from obscurity to an actual title contender. These are the times where your best team and best players and all of that they hadn't emerged yet. They really hadn't set themselves apart. But the Utah Jazz, who had just came to the NBA Finals, Malone was MVP. This was the time where you felt that, okay, this is the time they might take it. Now, the first time they was just there, this is the time they might get it. Now, the Bulls, just like any other team who's been there and done that, they knew that they could take out the young, not ready New Jersey Nets. The New Jersey Nets, once the playoffs hit and they got Scottie Pippen back, they were missing the true element of, you know, basically he's just missing that player, the one that actually stands out, that can guide them to the next level. And that was Jason Kidd. They needed a point guard. Sherman Douglas was not going to get it done. Um, you look at, I think, what was it, the Hornets and Bulls? I think they played the Hornets next after that. And the Hornets was really no match for the Bulls. They had Vlade Divac on the team, but that they got from the Kobe Bryant trade, but they weren't ready. They had Glenn Rice, Anthony Mason, Divac, and David Wesley. BJ was on the team, and that's when BJ got fired up, threw his hand. It was 1-1, and then after that, you aggravated Jordan. And even though Glenn Rice went off, Jordan and them had the last laugh. As they basically blew out Charlotte every other game, they were done. So, the Bulls have basically saying, we've been here so many times, we know how to get to the next level. Other teams are trying to learn how to beat us. We got this. Then comes the Indiana Pacers. For the first two games, the Pacers look like they shouldn't even be here. Even in the third game, the Bulls had them beat. And just blows it in the last seconds as Reggie Miller hits a three-pointer with like 7/10 of a second left. The Bulls was about to go up 3-0, and next thing you know, it's 2-1, and we're off to the races. Game 4 happens, and something interesting happened in Game 3. They started putting in Jalen Rose more, and Jalen Rose came off the bench and was really leading the charge for the second unit, as the Pacers had a guy that could not use pick and roll, actually cross a guy and get to the next level. And he was left-handed, he can get to his spots, and he was scoring and hitting shots and really boosting their bench. So in Game 4, you saw a lot of that, with the Pacers actually winning again by 2 points, forcing it into a Game 5. But a melee happened on the court in Game 4 that allowed Jalen Rose, who had a half a foot onto the court, past the line, did not go on the court because a half of his foot crossed the line. He was suspended for Game 5, which the Bulls won in a blowout. which it came back to Indiana, where the Bulls lose to Indiana by 3. And Game 7 was one of the most epic games ever. Because everyone's saying it's all over. There's no way Indiana can win. In Chicago, it's over. It's a wrap. It's done. They can't. It's Game 7. It's Michael Jordan. No, there's no way the Bulls can lose. So the game starts off weird. Indiana cannot miss a shot. They were like 11 for 11 from the field to start this game. It was incredible. They were getting destroyed by Dale Davis again. Reggie Miller was efficient, and they had the game completely under control. Even the referees who were carrying the Chicago Bulls, Dick Ebersol, was nervous. This game was getting too close for his comfort as they tried to keep the distance. Reggie Miller did something I've never saw Reggie Miller would ever do, is like basically not take a shot. In the fourth quarter, he just sat back and just like let the game happen without going after the game and going after the shots. It was weird to see, confusing, but also weird. So they get to the NBA Finals, and you know what happened there. They win the championship from that point on, and now you see why I call the Chicago Bulls a fake dynasty. All of this controversy, all of this nonsense, and for what? Now I didn't bring up where they went to go get Rodman and all these different things, and because it was unnecessary. You heard it in the last dance, so there was no need to bring it up here. That's just how it was. I just tried to tell you what you did miss in the mix of all of this. So what happened with Ernie's investigation? Well, in 2002, Juanita filed for divorce. She had all the things she needed. Soon as Michael retired from playing, she was done. She had did her part, and she wanted nothing to do with Michael. She found out some information in the envelope that came to her from Ernie years later, basically confirming what Ernie's been saying all along. And she's been collecting all this evidence. Now, there's going to be a Bulls documentary coming out, I think, and then Horace Grant's going to be in it, and all these other different people, but where is it going to go? What's it going to be about? I couldn't even tell you. I don't even know. So, all I got to say to that is be easy. Faux cheesy. I'm out.